Let's talk a little crime and justice and where we are in the state of Maryland in a lot of different ways. We're going to head to Howard County now and join Rich Gibson, who is the Howard County State's Attorney. Always good to have you on. Great to have you on, Mr. Attorney. How are you?
Good morning, and great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, all right. Let's start with the news from the state. We haven't had a chance to get your reaction to the news that Vincent Schiraldi is no longer the head of Juvenile Justice. There have been a lot of people who have said that he was a little bit over his head or a lot over his head. They weren't happy with them. People said this publicly. A lot of people said it under the table. What do you think of the move to go with a new, fresh set of eyes, if you will? And what do you think the meaning of Vincent Schiraldi's departure do for juvenile justice throughout the state and especially in Howard County?
So I'm really grateful that Governor Moore heard the concerns of Marylanders across the state as well as the prosecutors across the state and selected someone else to lead DJS. Schiraldi was given ample opportunities to kind of correct course, but I think the main problem was the philosophy was wrong. He had a philosophy of having as little contact as possible with the youth and not really getting in there and intervening in a meaningful way. And I am hopeful that new leadership under Ms. Tolentino is going to be have a different philosophy driving it, one where they understand no one wants to incarcerate youth. It's not a happy thing. It's not something we want to do. But there has to be consequences. If you care about children and you care about our society, you have to teach them how to thrive and succeed in society. And that means understanding there are rules, how to conduct yourself, how to handle stress, how to navigate, how to be successful. And you don't do that by not interacting with the kids. You need to interact with the kids, teach them action and consequence. And so I'm grateful and hopeful, grateful for the change and hopeful that new leadership will have a new philosophy related to how to interact meaningfully with youth who are violating our laws.
State's Attorney Rich Gibson is on board with us. He is the State's Attorney for Howard County. He's the immediate past president of the State's Attorneys across the state of Maryland. Now our own Ivan Bates is the new president of the statewide entity that represents all the state's attorneys. But let me ask you this, State's Attorney Gibson, when it comes to Betsy Fox Tolentino, we've had individuals call our show that have worked with her when she was over at the ROCA program in Baltimore, and they say that she is, very good to work with on that end. Have you had any interaction with her, and what do you think of her as the new Juvenile Services Secretary?
I have not had any interactions with her. I know that she was previously a public defender. That is not necessarily a bad thing. She's been part of the system, and I just hope she brings a different philosophy. Again, the key thing is, what does Governor Moore want, right? Because Governor Moore is the one who is driving this ship. So what does Governor Moore want? If Governor Moore wants a different direction, I hope that Ms. Tolentino, Secretary Tolentino, can lead DJS in that direction. And, I believe that her background in criminal justice will help serve her, even if it was from the public defender side. And again, it is my hope that they take a more hands-on approach and really try to intervene in meaningful ways with our kids that are violating our laws.
Is there one thing that you look at? I know you said philosophy was a big problem for Schiraldi, but is there one thing or a couple of items that you think right away that she could do that would make a difference?
So I think for violent offenses, it's a policy decision. For violent offenses, when a child commits a violent crime, DJS can automatically refer that to a magistrate or a judge as opposed to making the call as to whether this kid should be detained or what the process should be. They can make a policy determination to say, look, for violent offenses, when a kid does something that's pretty egregious, like a robbery, for instance, we're going to automatically refer that to a judge or a magistrate. I also think that DJS should invest heavily in mentorship programs. Let's intercede early. Mentorship programs that are targeting at-risk youth. So the kids that aren't doing well in school, the kids that already had contacts with DJS, the kids with SINA complaints. Let's craft mentorship programs that are going to have the ability to reach these kids, that are designed and peer-reviewed and structured in a way that is going to keep them out of the criminal environment, take up their time, capture their minds, and redirect them towards a more positive lifestyle and more positive choices. I think mentorship programs is something we don't do enough of. And again, it can't just be any mentorship program. It has to be peer reviewed, the right people, the right resources, the right places. Give them a safe place to be. Give them people who have the ability to reach them and guide them towards a better path, and give them things that are going to take up their mind and capture their mind. So, technology, sports, just things that are going to capture their minds and drive them in a different direction.
State's Attorney Rich Gibson from Howard County is on board with us. And State's Attorney, when we spoke with State's Attorney Ivan Bates, we also spoke with State's Attorney from Baltimore County, Scott Schellenberger, about this. They feel that the direction we should really go in is changing the juvenile justice structure. In other words, you just mentioned it. When a child commits a certain certain category of crimes, they should not go in front of an intake desk at DJS. That should immediately be in a type of court setting where you have the prosecution, public defender, or attorney, and it should be done in that fashion. Do you think we need to legislatively change it instead of hoping that DJS kind of does it on their own? Do you think we should change that?
So I think we could legislatively change it. Legislative change is complicated and long and hard, right? So executive actions are faster. We are in a point of urgency. I think you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I think you could certainly legislate the change, and it would be wise choice to make to legislate the change. But you can do this via executive action. As the leader of an organization, you're executing the laws. You are not barred from doing this. There's no restrictions on doing this. You can make this change today, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a sense of urgency because our community is at risk. We have kids that are in trouble. We have kids that are going to get in trouble. Summertime is upon us. Let's move quickly. And if we want to legislate this thing, certainly we can. That takes time and it's much slower. And of course, there's a lot of, how the sausage is made is important. There's a lot of deals and, negotiating, and things get kind of watered down and shifted about in the legislative process, whereas executive action is much quicker.
Yeah, don't I know it?
So I got to ask you, what do you think's going on right now with juveniles in Howard County? I mean, I don't know whether or not you're going to tell me numbers overall are down or not, but I know this, that there have been more incidents of shootings and murders in Howard County and in the Columbia area, and I've grown up in this area all my life, than I can ever remember. What's going on? What do you see? What do you think? Why is this happening in Columbia specifically?
Well, I mean, to be clear, so two things. One, it is factually true that crime numbers are down. They're down all across the country, and they're down in Howard County, and they're down in Baltimore City, and they're down in Washington, D.C. So crime as a whole is down. And juvenile crime is also down to totality, just statistically speaking, mathematically speaking. The delta or difference is that while the total volume of crime is down, the crimes that our children are committing are more egregious crimes. So to make it simple, if there were 10 crimes committed in the past, now there are 7. So there's less crime. However, of the 7, in the past it was, shoplifting and trespassing, and that stuff is kind of fallen off. And what you're seeing instead is kids with guns, right? The proliferation of weapons is a huge part of the problem. The ability to create a gun in your home with a device the size of a microwave that costs on the low end $300-400, on the high end $1,500 to $2,000, and you can make a functional weapon of war in your house. We didn't have that. I grew up in the 70s. We didn't have that, in the 70s and 80s, right? It didn't have it in the 90s. We have it now, right? So you have kids that can create these things relatively easily, and they're still, juvenile crime has always been an issue. Kids have always made bad decisions since the dawn of time. That's not new. But what is new is technological shifts. You also have social media, YouTube. One barrier to crime is knowing how to commit crime. Well, guess what? I can hop on the internet right now and figure out how to hotwire a car with a thumb drive, right? That wasn't there before. So access to knowledge is different. The criminal encouragement is different. You can do a flash mob now. We didn't have cell phones for them. You can organize in ways that you couldn't before. So those that are criminally minded can organize around crime in a way they could not.
Well, can I ask you about the one thing that around you brought up, stealing a car? So there was a case in Howard County where a kid stole a car in Prince George's County. They wrecked the car in Howard County, and they killed a 69-year-old woman. You found the driver of the car was a 16-year-old. He's from Laurel. He has been charged with manslaughter, stolen vehicle charges. The other kids in the car, as far as I know, I don't think have ever been found before.
They ran.
I wanted to ask you, like, how, a lot of laws that have changed that make it difficult to interrogate or ask kids questions, if that played a role in maybe these other three kids getting away, where are you on that? And a 16-year-old who steals a car and kills someone, should they be charged as an adult?
So I don't want to comment on any active cases before us because that is a dangerous place for prosecutors to be. So what I'll say is this. Everyone who is accused of a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. We are pursuing this case, and we are prosecuting this case. And so I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the case or the crime committed. Generically speaking, I can say the fact that we cannot talk to children is a challenge because, of course, we'd like to get as clear a picture of what was happening and who was involved as possible. Prosecutors, contrary to media representation, or I'll say some media representation, are truth seekers, right? Like our mission is to find out what happened. And if we find out something happened that violates the law, our task is to attach criminal liability to the criminal choice when appropriate, right? That is the task of the prosecutor, to seek the truth. And of course, if I can't talk to people who were involved, who knows about what crimes are committed? The people committing the crime.
Right.
If there are any hindrances to talking to those people, it limits my ability to ascertain clearly who was involved and what actually happened. And of course, we would love the ability to speak to juveniles. This is not about twisting arms. This is not about making kids say things, admissions of guilt. This is about finding out what happened and who was involved and getting to them when appropriate.
And particularly a 69-year-old woman whose life has been taken in a situation where the other juveniles are out doing who knows what. State's Attorney Rich Gibson from Howard County, it is always great to talk with you. And hopefully, there's this new police station that is at the Columbia Mall. Apparently it covers Meriwether District and Columbia Lakefront. We can get you in a couple of months, see how they just put it in April, see how that's working out. Okay, State's Attorney?
Absolutely. My pleasure. Great talking to you both.